Respected viewers and listeners, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I am going to have some talk on the soldiers of Karbala and the war of Karbala and its uniqueness in the history of soldiers and war. The tragedy of Karbala is unique in history. Its soldiers are also unique in their character, bravery, and valor. Karbala is a war. What is war? We may say in normal words, war is an intense armed conflict between states, governments, societies, or paramilitary groups such as mercenaries, insurgents, and militias. It is generally characterized by extreme violence, aggression, destruction, and mortality, using regular or irregular military forces. The aim of war is the desired territorial, economic, military, or other benefits expected following successful conclusion of the war. Normally, the aim of war is mainly of two kinds. Number one, tangible. Number two, intangible. A tangible war aims may involve the acquisition of territory or the recognition of economic concession, etc. An intangible war aims may involve like the accumulation of credibility or reputation, restoration of prestige, annexation, increase of power, etc. In every war, there is a combat, which means any event when the person's life was put in risk in direct contact with the enemy force. The warriors make a strategy before the combat, which is called combat strategy. Combat strategy is the planning, coordination, and general direction of military operations to meet overall political and military objectives. Tactics implement a strategy by short-term decisions on the movement of troops and employment of weapons in the field of battle. This strategy involves using military resources such as people, equipment, and information against the opponent's resources to gain supremacy or reduce the opponent's will to fight. In every war, the negative point for any warring group are disparity in number of soldiers, lack of support, and lack of supply, which adversely affects the war. A survey was done on the following points by Mr. Aaron Bazim, who is retiring US Army officer who served Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, Bahrain, and Jordan. He is recipient of the Combat Action Badge as a survivor of 2008 Marriott Hotel bombing in Islamabad. He holds a doctorate in psychology and currently serves at NATO Allied Command Formation in Norfolk, Virginia. He made survey on the various points. The first point during the survey was taken as what a soldier thinks in a combat situation. During combat situation, the survey found that the heart pounding and tunnel vision fear are just few of the physical and emotional responses which the soldiers reported. Upwards of 30% reported fear before and after and during combat. This is called, in terminology, fight or flight response. During the survey, he asked questions on fight and flight response, and he found that 87.9%, means 88%, soldiers' physical response was an increase in heart rate. Rapid breathing was found in 43.3% soldiers. 31.9, you may say 32% soldiers reported muscle tension, and tunnel vision was found in 24.4% of soldiers. Loss of hearing was found in 17.9% and shaking in 15%. After the threat is gone, it takes between 20 to 60 minutes for the body of a soldier to return to its pre-arousal level. An overwhelming number of war veterans said that they did not think and just acted combat by giving a positive nod to their training. 8 primary emotions were evolved in the soldiers during the combat situation, and these emotions are anger, fear, sadness, disgust, surprise, anticipation, trust, and joy. What is the effect of fear on a soldier? He says, fear is defined as a physical and emotional response to a perceived threat or danger. German Captain Adolf von Schell said of his World War I battlefield experiences, soldiers can be brave one day and afraid the next day, because the soldiers are not machines but human beings. The experience of World War II gives an information that out of 277 soldiers who were interviewed, 65% of them admitted having had at least one experience in combat in which they were unable to perform adequately because of intense fear. Training helps a lot in controlling the fear. The relationship between leader and led can also moderate the strain of fear. The leaders have a big responsibility in training to understand and prepare the soldiers for the war. What soldiers think during the combat? In the survey, it was found that a clear majority of 59.6% of the soldiers in survey responded that they did not think at all during the combat. Rather, they just acted without thinking. The second and fourth most common thought was related to the confidence in one's own ability, and the third and fourth most common thought was related to disbelief and strangeness of the situation. What they acted on contact. The 54% of soldiers stated that they engaged the enemy, while 45% stated that they did not, and remaining 1% stated they did not remember what they did. The service members of the force, such as communication, transport, when came under fire for the first time, 42.7% responded that they predominantly fought, while 19.2% responded to the survey that they helped the others. On the training, he found that in the survey, the combat veterans were asked about the quality of the training and what recommendations they would give it to future service members. The majority, that means 59.3%, stated that their training prepared them very well. Somewhat 32.3% of soldiers who had their first combat experience stressed for the importance of realistic training. One war veteran offered a list of advice to the soldiers that was a very representative in summary of the responses. The list contains: number 1, do not panic; number 2, pay attention to everything in your environment; 3, training; 4, do not let your guard down; 5, remember your training because it works; 6, sometimes you will have to improvise; 7, be aggressive but not reckless; 8, if your gut is telling you that there is something wrong, go with it; 9, some indicated that as they experienced more combat situation, they acted differently and improved their effectiveness and efficiency. On motivation, for every individual soldier, the primary task is survival. When it was found, when soldiers no longer believe that they have any control over their survival, they often lose focus on accomplishing their unit task. Now, these are the few conditions which are very common for a normal soldier, but when we see the soldiers of the Karbala, we find a different kind of soldiers in Karbala. The aim of the Karbala has been very well and very clearly explained by Imam Husain alayhi salam while he was going for the tragedy of Karbala and sacrifice of Karbala. Imam Husain was going to have an intangible war with Yazid for the accumulation of credibility or reputation, restoration of prestige of the values of Islam. Therefore, Imam Husain explained his strategy in clear terms. While leaving Madina, Imam Husain alayhi salam wrote a will to his brother Janab Muhammad Hanafiya alayhi salam, in which he explained his aim and his strategy in very clear terms. Imam Husain has written, I have not risen to spread evil or to show off, nor for spreading immorality or oppression, but I have left for the betterment of the Ummah of my grandfather, and I desire to propagate the religion and forbid against evil, thus following the footsteps of my grandfather and father Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Imam Husain alayhi salam gave another speech to the people the day before his departure from Makkah to Kufa. He said, the death is certainty. Very clearly Imam Husain told that in his path there is only death. The death is certainty for mankind, just like the trace of necklace on the neck of a young girl. And I am enamored of my ancestors like eagerness of Jacob to Joseph. Everyone who is going to devote his blood for our sake and is prepared to meet Allah must depart with us. In a very clear terms, Imam Husain told that he is going for the sacrifice and nothing else. And this sentence, everyone who is going to devote his blood for our sake and is prepared to meet Allah must depart with us. Soldiers of Karbala were quite different to the normal soldiers of the war, because on the night of the 9th of Muharram, before the battle, Imam Husain alayhi salam gathered all his men and told them that they were all free to leave the camp in the middle of the night under cover of darkness rather than face certain death if they stayed with him. None of Imam Husain's men defected and they all remained with him. These remaining 72 people said unanimously that such a thing was impossible for them. They categorically said, "O son of Prophet, what we will tell the people? Shall we say that we have abandoned our Imam, chief and leader, the son of the daughter of our Prophet, without lancing an arrow for him, or stabbing with a spear for him, or striking a sword for him? By God, no. O son of the Prophet, we will not leave you until we die before you, and let us share our fate with you. Life after you is meaningless." What answer we will give to the Holy Prophet on the day of resurrection? What will happen to loyalty, to humanity, to love and attachment? Their ardent responses and their words said on that occasion melt a heart of stone and was most moving. This small band of godly souls, pure in their spirit and sincere in their desire to fight and fall in the way of the Lord, spent the night in prayers, reciting the Holy Quran and rejoicing in the hope to drink the fast approaching cup of martyrdom the following morning. Everyone anxiously waited for the break of dawn to lay down his life in the way of the Lord in supporting the cause of truth. The soldiers of Karbala, though less in number, comprising only 32 horsemen and 40 infantrymen, fought with bravery, conviction, and valor. In spite of all these odds and heartbreaking circumstances, the sermon of Imam Husain alayhi salam in the morning of Ashura before the army of Yazid is full of bravery, valor, and conviction. Imam Husain said, "By Allah, I will not swear allegiance to these people like weak and mean persons, and will not flee the battlefield like slaves while fighting against the rascals. I seek refuge in Allah from the mischief of you people and of every arrogant person who does not believe in the day of judgment." Hur ibn Yazid Riyahi, the commander of the Tamim and Hamadan tribes, who had stopped Imam Husain alayhi salam from his journey, abandoned Umar ibn Saad and joined Imam Husain's small band of followers, and this is the sign and symbol of the victory of Imam Husain alayhi salam in Karbala. Now we can see the bravery of these soldiers of Imam Husain, who were very small in number, 32, who were having horses, and 40 infantrymen. They were divided into 3 bands, the left wing, the right wing, and the central wing. The first skirmish of Karbala, which was between the right flank of Imam Husain's army with the left flank of the Syrian army. A couple of dozen men under the command of Hazrat Zuhair ibn Qayn fought heroically and repulsed the initial infantry attack, and in the process destroyed the left flank of the Syrian army, rather the huge left flank of the Syrian army, which in disarray collided with the middle of its army. This was the bravery of the soldiers of Karbala of Imam Husain alayhi salam. Seeing this, the Syrian army quickly retreated and broke the pre-war verbal agreement of not using arrows and lances. This agreement was made in view of the small number of Imam Husain ibn Ali's companions. Umar ibn Saad, the commander of Yazid's army, on advice of Amr ibn al-Hajjaj, ordered his army not to come out for any duel and to attack Husain ibn Ali's army together. Karbala, its soldiers are the one and the only in history of mankind. There is none to surpass their conviction, greatness, bravery and valor. Every soldier was having the heart of Imam Husain. In this way, I am going to repeat the couplet of Sharar Faizabadi, who says that न दौलत दुनिया न कोई माल दिया है, एक सागर उल्फत में मगर ढाल दिया है, मालूम ये होता है कि शब्बीर ने अपना असहाब के सीनों में जिगर डाल दिया है। सलामुन अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।